Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this workshop about data, knowledge and insight. Thanks ever so much for joining us before the lunch break, and we'll try not to eat into your lunch too much. So I'm Alice John, I'm from Substance, and I'm really delighted to be here with you today to discuss how we can use data and insight to manage performance, develop programs, secure investment, and ultimately, and of course most importantly, improve outcomes for participants and customers. So in terms of the format, I'm really pleased to welcome with me today Joyce, Operations Manager, and Vanessa Greene, Impact and Evaluation Manager from the Chance to Shine Foundation. Shortly I'll hand over to Richard, who will talk to you about how important it is to embed a robust operational plan around data recording and impact measurement. And then we'll hear from Vanessa about why all this stuff really matters and how we can use data to develop knowledge and insight to achieve our organisational goals. Firstly, just a little bit about Substance, for those of you who haven't come across us before. So we're a research and technology company based in Manchester. We were founded in 2005, and since then we've been helping organisations that deliver sport and health programmes to measure their impact and to use that insight to create more positive outcomes for participants. So it's really great to be in a room full of people today that share those passions and goals. We've been lucky enough to work with the Chance to Shine Foundation since 2011, predominantly through our Views platform. And now, I'll hand it over to Richard and then Vanessa, who are going to share their learning, really, about knowledge and data and insight. And we hope you have some useful takeaways today. Thank you.
Hi. So I'm Richard, so thank you all for coming. Just going to share a little bit about our kind of starting point when we needed a system to properly monitor and evaluate our programme, and kind of the process we went through, I guess, why Views, and a little bit about the building blocks we had to put in place through that system, both through setting it up to suit our needs, and then also sharing that throughout the network, the delivery network that run our programmes. Just a little bit about Chance to Shine firstly. So since 2005, we've brought cricket to over 4 million children across the country. So we're an educational cricket charity. We work in state schools and in disadvantaged communities. We're on a mission to spread the power of cricket, taking it to places it's never been before, ignite new passions, teach vital skills, unite communities, inspire young people. And our vision is to inspire all young people to play and learn through cricket. And we have two core programmes. It's kind of important to understand this, I guess, our approach to evaluation. So firstly, our school programme has a significant scale. The majority of those 4 million children I mentioned come through our school programme, so we work in state schools. We have a large amount of numerical data to track that. So in 2017-18, the last academic year, we delivered over 55,000 individual sessions in over 5,000 schools. Individually, attendances of over 500,000 participants need to be entered into Views. For our street programme, it's a smaller scale with a greater level of demographic data recorded for individuals. So last year, again, we had over 4,500 sessions, 135 different projects across the country, to over 4,000 individuals. So there we're working with, as opposed to the school programme, where we're working with, sort of more like classes of 30 over 6 weeks. Here we're working with groups of 15, 20, 30, 40 over 35 weeks throughout the year. So it's a different level of depth to the data, but a smaller data set. So why Views? So here I'm just going to outline a few of the sort of programme requirements we have, and I guess the Views capability that sort of met them. So firstly, we needed to record the attendance data for those 55,000 sessions a year roughly in schools. Views has an events capacity which is kind of geared to recording large numbers rather than kind of personal data. So using that recording method, we were able to record the key data we need, so school year, what year group are they in school, activity type, funding type, so sometimes our school programme, secondary school programme, for instance, being funded by Sport England, our primary school programme through other sources, so to be able to differentiate has been important. Attendance data, including demographic data for individual participants. So there's a sessions capability on Views. That recording method lets us track and analyse participants and their data. So for each individual part of our street programme, we have personal data around things like postcode, ethnic origin, all those sorts of things, gender, And we're able to attach those to sessions and to record that as we go along. Coach attendance data across our programs as well. So as well as just telling us, what we're delivering, we work with 39 delivery partners, the county cricket boards who deliver our programs. So we need to know how many coaching hours are being delivered because, in line with the grants that we provide. Same for the street program. To support payroll needs for our delivery partners. So our previous system that we'd kind of built ourselves from 2005, which was starting to creak as the program grew, our county cricket boards used that in order to do their payroll. So actually having that capacity to export registers and timesheets and use those to give their coaches to get signed and to return them so they get paid was important, so we needed that function. 39 boards, they all need to be able to enter data. So what's really good for us with Views is that we have separate license for each of our delivery partners. So there's 39 licenses that only they can access, and then that data filters through to our dashboard account that we can access, and that also anonymises the data. So in terms of GDPR, which I'm sure has been everyone's favourite subject this year, it means that a lot of that is kind of done for us and we see the key numbers and the statistics rather than all the sort of personal data that might have given us a headache. We need simple methods to summarise data, to export data, to share with our trustees, with our funders. And again, there are both statistic summaries and export functions that enabled us to do that, and that we can tailor as well. So, we can add columns, we can take columns away that we don't need, we can add columns and create our own bespoke kind of exports and stat summaries that enabled us to report in a really kind of clear and efficient way. And adaptability and external support services is big for us as well. So we need to add and amend features. Our program evolves and grows, and I'm sure any of you who are delivering programs will understand. Last year we relaunched our primary school program and a lot changed, so being able to adapt that and change the functionality was really important. We also benefit from the requirements of other customers. So, Views works with a load of other organisations, like Premier League, street games, and they may make changes to the system that they will, support the cost of that. And then, Views will often roll that out to other customers, and we can benefit from those as well. So, a lot of the kind of key requirements we had, Views met or were able to tailor things to meet our needs. A little bit about what we had to do to set up the system. So we work closely with Substance to tailor the events. We now labelled as our school sessions. So type of activity sessions, is it an assembly, is it a PE lesson, is it a classroom session, is it a competition? So funding type, I already said that we have different funders for different elements of the programme. Unique attendances split by gender, and whether white, British or BAME is the only kind of differentiation we do there. For our school programme, if they're SEND as well. So all those little bits we can kind of capture just as numbers for the school programme. Then in terms of the participants data, so for our street programme, the 4,500 participants a year that we work with and growing, we capture the key demographic data. So ethnicity, we split down by census categories. So for that programme, because we are working in the heart of communities, we need to really understand the real depth of particularly around South Asian communities where we work extensively with. So about 70% of our participants come from South Asian backgrounds. We need to know if we're in Pakistani communities in the middle of Birmingham or South Manchester, if it's Indian communities in Leicester, if we're working with Afghan refugees, being able to actually tailor that really helps us to understand the projects and the communities where we're working. Postcode, very important. So 30% of our programmes for our street programme are in, all of our programmes in our street programme, the projects are in areas that are in the lowest 30%, according to Index of Multiple Deprivation. So to be able to understand disadvantaged areas, those deprivation stats, we need the postcodes of both where our projects are and where our participants live. And also current levels of involvement in sports and cricket clubs. It's really important to us that we target areas where the cricket isn't really easily accessible. So we ask participants when they join, are they a member of a cricket club, are they a member of other sports clubs? Physical activity data is really important around Sport England, which some of you may have been in that session earlier. So being able to capture that at the point they join the programme really helps us to understand that of the 4,500 people last year, 86% of them didn't play at clubs when they joined us, which is a really kind of strong driver for why our programme works. And then sessions, again, capturing the street data, so type of activity, is it a youth programme, is it young adults, we have different age groups, is it competition, is it a community session, is it an education workshop? We've had different funders, so Sport England funded our young adults programme in 2012 to 15, and we had different funders, corporate funders for our youth programmes, and also to register those participants that we've put into the system, which sessions they attend and that sort of thing. So we had to kind of tailor a lot of those things to suit our needs, and it's very important that you kind of put those building blocks in at the start. In terms of reporting, we've done a similar thing with statistic summaries to provide that key data at a glance. Again, we need to know what our funders need to know so we can kind of set up the reporting functions in terms of the exports and in terms of the stat summaries. So for our school programme, we need to know hours delivered. So when we provide grants to the 39 boards, they say at the start of the year how many hours they can deliver, how many schools they're going to reach, how many people they're going to reach, how many hours they deliver per school as per our model. So we have a model which includes sort of assemblies, 6 classes, 6 sessions per class with at least 2 classes, in-school competition, a transition session to a club, so we can kind of understand our boards delivering that programme, how many hours per school. So they're things that we agree at the start of the year, and having clear statistics, summaries and exports give us that data at a glance so we can kind of performance manage. Same for the street programme. How many projects are they delivering? Average weekly attendance helps us understand the health of those programmes. Obviously, when we're in school, the class sizes is set, and it's usually going to be around that, give or take a few who have brought in the sick notes. But with street, that can fluctuate, so that helps us to really understand, is it going up and down? Is it staying stable? Are projects viable? Coaching hours, again, is important in terms of the funding that we give them, the funding they spend, number of unique participants. I've already quoted that stat a few times. And then the demographic splits, as I said, breaks down, and we can do that on a project-by-project basis, which I think Vanessa might touch upon later. And then activity levels of participants, again, I've touched upon that already, that, how active were they before they joined us and that sort of thing. So putting in place all those things so that we can report that key data to Sport England, who we got £3 million from this year, and actually being able to show we understand the communities, we understand the ethnic breakdown of our participants, we understand the levels of deprivation, where they live, where the projects are. All those things, we need those in place at the start so we can report effectively. In terms of rolling out across the programme workforce, a pretty big job. So we work with probably over 1,000 coaches in a year across our schools and street programme. So what we did is we worked with views to set up 4 regional training days where everyone was sat in front of a laptop and went through the key elements of data entry for the project leads at the county cricket boards, the coaches, the lead coaches who were doing a lot of hours. And then trickling that down, we did a how-to video. It's about 45 minutes, which kind of walks through the process, which we then send that link out to boards. It's openly accessible. Coaches can go on it whenever they need to. They ran a webinar for us as well, which was really helpful. So on top of that video that was the how-to, that chance to engage with people from views who understand the process and can kind of talk through it, answer questions. We also record that and share it as well. So a lot of coaches will ask the same sort of questions. And then again, that's something we re-record, we rerun webinars when we do change the programme significantly. We do make changes, which is something we did last year. There's no point having a video from 2015 that shows you things on the system they're not going to see now. So those sorts of things are kind of really important, building blocks that you need to put into the system. The other way that we kind of use it a little bit is in terms of performance management and programme insight. So as I say, we ask our delivery partners for our street programme, of which, as I say, there's 135 last year, to do a self-assessment, and we kind of pull off, this is just a few of the bits of data that we might have for our street sessions. This is real data, but I've renamed sort of projects. So it kind of shows how many sessions, how many unique participants, what the average attendance is, and then we RAG rate them. So green is 10 plus, so we say if you want to carry that on, we'll continue to fund it. 6 to 9 is an amber, so if you're getting fewer than 9, that session's going to struggle to be kind of really engaging for young people. And if it's 5 or fewer, then there's probably serious questions about whether we want to continue that. Now, those challenges can be there for whatever reason, so we kind of RAG rate, share that around with the self-assessment, and anything that's red or amber, we ask them to write a project plan if they want to continue it, or if they want to cease it, where they might move the funding. So kind of we can pull that data off as we go through the year when we meet with boards to performance manage, but at the end of the year, it does kind of give us a really clear kind of export of data to give us a clear idea of progress and what might need to change, where they might need to work on projects. The other thing is probably a bit of insight into project retention. So if you look at project 4 there, you see they've got 18 people registered to that session, only 6 a week, so they've got 1 in 3 participants is coming every week. Whereas that one at the bottom that's healthier, 12 out of 16 are coming every week on average, so they're kind of retaining about 3 and 4. So that's the sort of thing where we can look at that and engage with the boards and have those conversations. Performance management for me with our boards isn't about hitting them with a stick and saying, why aren't you doing better? It's about trying to understand those challenges that we might have across different boards, across different cities and different towns. So that might be the sort of conversation we can use that data to go, okay, well, what might you be doing here where you're engaging more of the people you're reaching are coming back every week? It might be the coach, the venue, the time, all these different sort of things that kind of data helps give us a bit of an insight into. So that is just a bit of a quick whistle-stop tour of, I guess, the things we put in place and how we kind of use it to get insight into our projects and our performance management, how we use it to work with boards and understand how well their programmes are running. Now, I am very conscious that is not the most exciting set of slides you're going to see all day. It is very process-driven. It is about getting those building blocks in, but it is really important. The stuff that Vanessa is going to talk through now is much more interesting, how we use that data and how we get that insight and how that kind of contributes to telling the real story of the great work we do as an organisation. And we could have just gone straight into that, but it's really important to understand you have to do the heavy lifting. You need to understand your project, the data you want to get out there. You need to put that work in at the start, and you need to kind of set things up effectively so you're capturing. There's no point getting to the end of the year and going, we know we've done loads of great work, but we can't prove it. So kind of, as I say, some of that is a little bit dry, but it is really important to understand that what you need to get out of it at the end, you need to just kind of put that work in at the start, do that heavy lifting, and then you'll get some really great stuff, which Vanessa's going to talk you through now. Thank you.
Hi. I think Rich is underselling himself. I think that's a huge piece of work, and if there are any kind of data nerds in the room, then I actually find it quite interesting, but it's hard work. So my name is Vanessa Greene. I'm the Impact and Evaluation Manager for Chance to Shine. What that means is that my job is to try and figure out the change that happens as a result of this work. I work across the organisation, which is a whopping 18 people, so I will help the 5 guys in the operations team, I'll help the 5 people in the fundraising team, and I myself work to evidencing what we have is a outcomes framework of about 6 outcomes that pretty much models what Lisa was talking about earlier on from Sport England. Step number 1, just getting children and young people really excited about a sport. For us, it's cricket, but I would be sometimes cricket agnostic in thinking the importance of capturing children's excitement at a really key point in their lives when we know from all of the insight that Sport England puts out that this is just the time when so many children and young people just stop taking part. So our key outcomes are around getting children excited in sport, helping them to build that confidence, and making an offer for those young people who are less likely to take part, designing something for them, especially through our street programme, bringing something interesting to them rather than sitting around hoping that they come to us. So I'm going to talk to you today about how we use some of that data that Rich was talking about, some of that participation data, to understand our impact in that space. And then I'm going to talk about how we support fundraising. So I'm not a fundraiser, but I do support the fundraising team, and I did have a quick whip around the office and kind of talk to them specifically about how using data through substance views has helped them. Our fundraising team would be the first people to admit that they find data incredibly boring, and they will just they want me to interpret it, to give them the headlines, to think about how we can support making a case for support and understanding our impact on children and young people. There are a couple of challenges to the way that our charity is set up to understanding our impact that Rich alluded to earlier on. For one, we have quite a large scale of work, 500,000 children across 5,000 primary schools. We work in 130 something different communities, all something different, all done differently. But we are one step removed from it because we have our 39 county cricket boards who actually deliver the work. They have 1,000 coaches that they employ. So we are always kind of one step, a little bit removed. You can't just turn around to your colleague and go, what's happening in Wales, like tomorrow? So that's been completely, I guess, changing for us as an organisation. I think this is a really good example. Actually, the photograph in the background is one of my favourite photographs. This was taken in May, would you believe, in a kind of early Welsh summer day in Port Talbot. And that little dot of a little girl holding the bat is Millie May, and she is our 4 millionth child. So we knew that in the 17-18 academic year we were going to hit our 4 millionth child as a charity, and it was up to Rich to try and find that child. So we could have just put a pin in a map and just decided Millie May was a child, but we actually were able to go through our data, look at what was coming up, and had narrowed it down to this one primary school, and it was whatever class was going to have their session first. So Millie May stepped up and was our 4 millionth child. So super cute. We know it's not about participation numbers. We know that our work is more than just how many people we reach, but I think it's a really important place to start. For me, we have to know who we work with, when, in what way, and other profiles in order to kind of dig deeper with that. I should say that this piece of work and what I'm going to talk about now is only a small part of what we do to evaluate our program. We have a series of surveys, and we do research, and we commission research, but this is really kind of the heart in me understanding what happens on the ground, what can we learn from it. So this was taken from our 2017 impact report. It was the first page. This is what we do, and then the other 30-something pages were so what. But this is, so integral for us to understand. It's so integral for us to understand as an organisation. what's happening when, so we can start to understand some of the trends that come out of it. The rest of our organisation, especially our fundraising team, have the same access that I have to this, as Rich has to this. If they need to bring a funder to see a session in Durham, they will just log on to Substance and they will find out what session's happening over the next few weeks and be able to coordinate that. And they know with pretty good confidence about who's going to turn up. If they know that a funder is particularly interested in seeing a particular community take part in cricket, they'll know where to go, and it's made that type of thing a lot easier for us. So then on to how we start to use this participation data and use this knowledge and profile of our participants into understanding our impact. As said before, it's only a very small part of what we do in terms of our evaluation, but it's so integral. So it's that piece of work that Rich was talking about analysing, running off exports from Substance, looking at our participants, looking at who's coming, looking at who's not coming, who drops out, is the only time that we can start to understand why are they dropping out, how can we engage them again, and we start to structure our research around that, so that hopefully that's really helpful. What I really enjoy doing is starting to put some of that story of the data against national data and start trying to understand, so what if 50% of our participants in Cumbria are girls in our schools program? What does that really actually mean? I would go to this wealth of kind of openly available data, whether it's the indices for multiple deprivation, some of the stuff around the Sport England survey results, UK data service, and start to look at childhood obesity rates in Cumbria in this area. It makes a so much more compelling case to start to dig deeper, going, what is it about our program in these schools where we know this is an issue, where we know that children aren't getting active? How is our program working in a way that perhaps perhaps these children haven't found something as interesting otherwise? How can we learn from that? How can we build on it? And how can we roll it out? This helps me identify further areas for other research we do. So taking that example of, we know this area is doing great work in Cumbria and getting these children engaged. We'll put that as part of our surveys, our participant surveys, and start to understand what it was about that gets it going. So supporting fundraising with the caveat that I'm not a fundraiser, so please no very detailed questions. If you do have really detailed questions, I'm happy to take them back to our team and for them to discuss with you. But when I spoke to them about this, again, they just reiterated that having that access to this kind of information, being able to report back to funders really clearly, really consistently, at the drop of a hat if needed to, was integral to them. We have one Trust and Foundation manager, Tristan, who's amazing, and a huge part of his work is identifying future funders. So Tristan will look at the local data and start thinking about there's a trust that's really interested in Bedfordshire. What are we doing in Bedfordshire? What's involved in that? So he'll start exploring that. If he identifies something interesting, like the Cumbria example, whether some schools are having great results in terms of getting children excited and into cricket and going forward, I link that to other research that we do, and we'll start to build this picture, a case for need that we can bring to into a trust or a funder or a major donor, someone like that. I thought I'd give a recent example of applying for the Young Londoners Fund and talking about how having Substance, having our data in order, that painstaking kind of getting everything sorted, having that all in order had helped us apply for this fund and be successful for this fund. So we were recently awarded a 6-figure grant from the Young Londoners Fund, which is the Mayor's Office, to support 11 street projects in London. We pulled together this application in maybe 2 weeks. It was between Tristan, myself, and Rich. And I think without this, we would have really, really struggled. It allowed us, first of all, to figure out whether we even met the requirements. So Tristan's time is so important. Should he spend 2 weeks trying to go for develop an application for a fund that we're unlikely to get? This was integral. So we were able to look at what the Young Londoners Fund wanted. They wanted examples of children from different ethnic backgrounds getting together, examples of children who are less likely to be physically active, less likely to have something that they want to take part in regularly, less likely to be involved in positive activities. So the first thing we did was we ran a profile of all of the street projects, the 39 street projects we have in London, and we started to group them. We started to look at participation rates, retention rates, what children are staying, what children are leaving, what projects have changed in their profile over the last few years. We were able to go back to the coaches, always remembering that we're like one step removed, so we were able to go, right, what happened in Brent? Why has the Brent project gone from being 16 children from a Pakistani background to 8 children from a Pakistani background and 8 children from an Afghan background? We were able to work out that they had recently started filtering children from the Afghan Refugee Association towards that project. So it's those little things that start building that case and helping us identify which of these projects were best fit for this fund. Start talking to coaches. I was able to link it to the recent survey we'd done of participants about 6 months ago, starting to go back and understanding what impact, what change had happened as a result of coming to that street project for those children. Had they made new friends? Had they linked with people they would have never linked with otherwise, and start to really kind of build that case. When it came to making the application, one of the key requirements is that we did have our data in order, that we were able to quickly do some really in-depth monitoring. They wanted to see commitment to sharing our data and helping other organizations, and also building a really detailed evaluation plan for that. So that was really helpful. And then I was going to finish up by talking about key challenges and what we've learned. And I'm going to pass back to Rich in a second. But I think for me, one of the things that we've learned is that if your organization can, I know not everyone's can, I would really strongly say learn how to do some of this yourself. There are people out there that you can pay a fee and they'll analyze your data for you and they'll match it to indices of multiple deprivation or give you some kind of like profile of that. When I first joined Chancellor Town, we did that, and I learned how to do it then afterwards, so that it's all of this stuff, the majority of this stuff, is openly available. You don't have any kind of special requirements to access a huge amount of this stuff. It just meant figuring out how to do it once means that it's just now built into our work, and it means that I can cascade it down to other members of our team, so that our trust information manager feels more comfortable actually accessing some of those data things, and it's not such a barrier in terms of learning. So that's been really important for me.
I'll probably just add 2 things really. I think one I've already touched upon is just be proactive. Don't wait until there's a funder that asks for certain things, then go, right, we need to suddenly build all this in and capture it. Don't wait until the end of the year where you need to do a report to a funder, or you need to understand the program and you realise you're not capturing any of the data that you need. If your program is seasonal, so for instance our schools program runs obviously with the school year, it's kind of knowing those pinch points and knowing that come the end of July things are winding down and you can start looking at what are your requirements for next year. Talk to people through the year, talk to your fundraising team, talk to your comms team, talk to the coaches, the people using the system, what changes might we need to make for next year, and just get on top of it, because once you're in the middle of the year and you're capturing data, it's really difficult to make those changes. So I think certainly being proactive is one thing I would say. The other thing I'd say is that obviously I mentioned before, I think we work with 1,000 coaches who deliver our programs. I have yet to meet a coach who says I got into coaching because I love doing paperwork and monitoring evaluation. So that is a really big challenge. And obviously the kind of stick approach is if they don't do that, they don't get paid. But what we find actually is really valuable is to bring them on the journey and show them the importance of the data they're collecting and how it does feed into those other pieces of work, how it helps us to raise money, how it helps us to show stories, to share stories, and to kind of make sure that they, you kind of share, I don't know if educate is the right word, but make sure that they are kind of feel valued, that actually that part of the process they do, where they are collecting those data, where they are going to that kid who's been there 4 weeks in a row and saying, I need your form back, I need these sort of details completing, is not just about them getting their grant at the end of the year and them getting paid individually. It is about sharing the great story that your organisation, that our organisation has told, that impact report that Vanessa produces that has all this really impactful data that helps us grow the programme, that helps us do interesting things. That all comes down to those building blocks that they put in place. So I think certainly bring them on the journey and share the great ending that they contribute to, rather than just kind of go, I know you hate paperwork, but we need it, and you need to get paid. I think that's really valuable as well, and that's something we've certainly learned over the years. I think I'll leave that there, and if you have any questions, I'll sit down and you can, I guess, throw them at any of us, and we'll do our best to answer.
Thank you, Rich. Thanks, guys. I really enjoyed that. And I think my biggest takeaway is how important both elements are. Actually getting on top of your data and taking it seriously and thinking about your operational plan is just as important as thinking about how you're going to use it and what it's going to tell you. So thanks ever so much. We do have 5 minutes for questions, but I'm aware that we are also running over. So we can take questions now if anyone has any. Alternatively, we'll be out in the kind of lunch area, myself and Adam from Substance, to answer any of your questions. And I think you guys will be around for a little bit. So happy to take questions.